with the flow.
Oh my god, Jesus Christ, that ending. It's not hard, but oh my god, dude, the nerves are insane. Like, it's not like I was, like, panicking. I was so incredibly locked in. Jesus Christ. Okay. Wow. Okay, this level, I'm going to obviously give my opinion like I do on basically all of my other completions. Before I say anything else, good shit. Oh my god. This is probably one of the best XL levels in the entire game. The reason I say that is because XL, especially like nowadays and the modern era of Geometry Dash, is really broad. And a lot of levels are above 2 minutes, so like, yeah, Electric Forest is XL barely. So yeah, that's better because that's the best level on the servers, but it's the best. This is probably the best level that's over 5 minutes long. I'll say that. Easy, like, 90 out of 100 enjoyment. Good shit. I will say, my only issue with some of the parts is that a lot of the time you will die and it will not feel like your fault. Like, my furthest death in the level is, like, I believe it's 73%, which, explaining it, it'll sound like the dumbest shit ever. Like, there is that ball part where you just hit green orbs over and over again. It's really cool. It is some of the best music representation in the entire game. But, like, that first click, sometimes, not even 100% of the time, if you buffer it, you'll go flying. And only, like, when I died there from 0, I realized that the reason was, actually, so, if you hit the orb before the ball portal, you'll still be a cube and have that momentum going into the ball portal, which, launches you 10,000 miles per hour into the floor, which, like, I mean, yeah, like I said, you can explain it and avoid it by hitting the orb slightly later, but, like, that's not what I want to be thinking about 5.5 minutes into this fucking level. Yeah, in my Kasui Jetsu video, I, went through each part individually and gave my opinions on them. I won't be going through every part of this level, because I would be sitting here for 3 fucking hours. But I do have a list of all the important parts, and I'll be going through that. Yep. The first ship, like the very beginning of the level, it's okay. It's nothing like it's not the best part of the level, but it's good enough. One thing I did notice is that it, like, really obstructs your vision, and, like, the objects are moving, so it's really hard to tell where things are. And if that was anywhere else in the level, it would probably be terrible, but as a first part, it works really well. The reason I say that is because if you're, like, 4 minutes into this fucking level, I don't want to have this, like, ship where you can't see anything and you just die randomly. After that, there is the ship section with all the black orbs. You're flying everywhere. There's the toggle orbs that turn you into a cube for a bit. That part was pretty good. I'll bring this point up later, but if you want to do ship sync gameplay, which isn't a common thing and takes a lot of, like, know-how to get right, your best bet is to probably use orbs, not like portals or just clicks, because that's inconsistent. So yeah, orbs like that where you're holding, that's normally 99% of the way the best way to go about it. I'm saying that because that's what Darwin did here. Good. The toggle orbs, they were a bit iffy, where sometimes you'd click them and just nothing would happen. What's obviously happening is I'm just clicking them like too early or too late, but it still felt a little bit bullshitty. For the beginning, it was fine because it was at like 1%, but it what became really annoying when you just die there when it's at 60%. I don't think I died there from 0, but I died to something similar. I'll explain when I get there, I guess. The next part that's worth mentioning is that I call it reoccurring motif, which is just that sample of gameplay after the mini ship before the spider ball duel, which is like, I'll name a few of the parts, like the mini cube with like the QR codes and shit. There's that like staircase of like blue orbs, blue pads, purple pads. I'll probably show a video of it just because my explanation is not doing justice at all. Yeah, parts like that, and the reason I call it reoccurring motif is because they come up at later points in the level, whether it's like 30% or 90%, they'll show up later. And one thing about that is, like, on paper, that seems like the dumbest shit ever. You have a 7-minute level, and you have to keep the player engaged for 7 entire minutes. How do you do that? Well, make parts repeat. It sounds like the stupidest thing of all time, but with this level in this song, it works very well. I can't explain it past that. It's just the coolest shit ever. Playing a part at 90% that you also played at 10%. Yeah. Next is the spider ball duel. Yeah, it's another reoccurring. It could have been considered in the reoccurring motif section because it shows up again at 90%, but it's really too significant of a part to like just lump into the reoccurring motifs. Yeah, it worked. It was hard to learn like when you're just starting it. I say hard, but I should have probably said this at the beginning. I think this level's an insane demon. It took a while to beat, but that's to be expected with a 7-minute level. I honestly don't even think I have 1,000 attempts total. This is like a high-end, middle-of-the-road insane demon, not even like borderline extreme. Basically what I'm saying, the spider ball duel is not that difficult, but it's one of the harder parts. It's a good example of a duel where there's really only a few ways to make asymmetrical duels not shit. For the record, I love asymmetrical duels, but only when they're well made. And one of the ways to do them well is... This isn't even my favorite way to do them well. One of the ways to do them well is to have you basically looking at one icon, and the other icon does cool shit in the background. Yeah, it's more sight-readable that way, and a lot of the deaths seem more fair, where you're not just, like, clicking perfectly fine, looking at one icon, then you die to some bullshit in the other icon. Yeah. I'll move on, make this a little bit quicker. Next part I called the orb part with moving platforms. I couldn't think of a better way to describe it. You kind of know what I'm talking about. I'll put it on screen. Yeah, this part, it was okay. One thing this level I feel like does really well is it has a lot of really cool effects, but 90% of the time they do not interfere with the gameplay. There are examples, like another part later on, and this part where it's like, it kind of interferes, but only really at those wave parts, which just come out of nowhere, and especially the mini wave at the first of these, it comes back at the end. The mini wave at like 15% or so, that release is a bit unsight readable, but it becomes consistent. Next I put the ship part with black orbs. That part is really awesome to play, really unique, but other than that there really isn't that much to say about it. I would sometimes die there for stupid reasons, but 90% of the time, if I were to hypothetically die there, I didn't die there that often, it would feel like my fault. Next I have the wave. I'll put a video on screen. It's not a super detailed description, but you know what part I'm talking about. This part is also pretty good. Nothing like spectacular, but it's still really nice, really good music representation. My only nitpick is at the end of that first spam. If you release too late, right before the cube part, you'll just land into the spikes and die. That could have been playtested a bit better, but then again, it's one of those bugs that's really easy to combat, where you just release earlier and jump, and it's almost like if you die, there's basically a skill issue and not a bullshit bug. Yeah. The next part I have listed, the yellow orb ship. This part is really neat. Another example of really good music representation and a really good use of repetition, which that kind of goes hand in hand with music representation. If your song doesn't have that like repetitive aspect that some parts of Cicada3302 by Camellia has, stuff you won't be able to get away with stuff like this. But this level has that song, obviously, so it does, and it's really consistent, done really well. My literally only nitpick is that coming out of those yellow orb ship sections, sometimes you'd have to hold to like go into the next ship portal without dying. It's a bit weird to explain. Then again, if you just hold after each orb, including the ones inside of a ball portal or something, you'll be good. Again, I don't know if that made sense, but... Next is the first drop. This is at 30%. It works pretty well. I like the second drop better, which is to be expected. Generally, if you have 2 drops in the level, you'd want the second drop to be better, more climactic. Yeah. So, yeah. It worked. No real problems with it. Again, nothing like... Not the best part of the level. Next is the dash orb part. Yeah, similar to the first drop, it's good. I like it. Nothing that I really need to say about it. Next I called the blind speed change jumps. This is probably my second least favorite part of the level. The sight readability would kill colon, where it's basically just jump right at a 4-speed change, hit a blue orb, and it changes back to half speed, and then just repeat that a million times. And the platforms come last second. And one of the, probably the main issue with this part is that you turn to 4-speed right before you go off the platform. So if you're trying to jump late, which is what you're supposed to do, there's spikes on top that will kill you if you jump too early. Sometimes you'll hit the 4-speed portal a bit earlier than you'd expect, because the hitbox isn't that easy to, like, isn't that intuitive. You'll just fly off the platform and die, which, again, a lot of this stuff is, like, the most minor nitpicks. Like, if this was in a 2-minute level, it would just be like, oh, die there, that's just a skill issue. But for 7-minute levels like this, all of that stuff matters a lot more, because we're only at 40%, and that's, like, 3.5 minutes into the level, so a lot of these like super tiny nitpicks matter a lot more. But even then, this level is still, I would consider, one of the best in the game. The part after that is the repetitive click pattern duel. I feel like this does the specific part of the song better than the blind speed change jumps, where again it is repeating the same click pattern, and like, it's not sight readable, it's a fucking duel, for crying out loud. But the click pattern is really easy, and 99% of the time it works, and there's no, like, jumping off the platform right before a 4-speed change bullshit. So yeah, and that's the second way to do a duel really well, in my opinion, which will be brought up later, where you may have it, like, unsight readable as shit, like, going into it for the first time practicing, but like there's like a really obvious click pattern that just you can just close your eyes and do, and it works, and it feels super badass, even though it's not as difficult as it looks. A good example of this is the duel in Ultra Chromatic, if you've played that level, or the duels in that level, but you know. The next part I have listed is the robot, which is just, again, this part has a lot of that repetitive gameplay style that this level seems to use a lot, where you're just making robot jumps, like the same robot jump over and over. There's nothing wrong with them. You can't... honestly, something like that would be really hard to mess up, but there are small UFO breaks in between, where it has this cool effect of the platforms and orbs and portals and everything disappearing when you get too close to them. It's kind of like the invisible blocks from like 1.6, but done right. Yeah. Again, there's no issue with it. After that, there's a really long auto section. In the past, levels with like long auto sections at 50% drove me fucking crazy. Like Kingslayer had that, where in between insane demon gameplay and then the bloodbath difficulty afterwards, you'd have this like 10-second auto section, which is a huge pain in the ass. Yeah. And also the Sulfur Sea, where there's this dash orb separating the two halves of the level, and like it only hurts the level. It's really annoying. This level again is like the exception where it just works. My assumption for the reason of that is that the level is so long, so you don't get there very often. Like, that's after like 3.5-4 minutes of gameplay, so you don't get there very often. So yeah, from 0 I probably only got there like 5 times at most. So having to sit there for like 15 seconds really doesn't affect the overall enjoyment as much as other levels that have a stupidly long auto section. Next I have Slow Dash Orb part, which is more of like a music sync kind of... I say flowy. When I say that, I don't mean flow gameplay at all. Kind of... Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, this part works pretty well. There will be some times where you'll hit a dash orb and then later on die to some like structure jutting out because it's like a cave kind of look. Dying to there, like, it sucks. I never died there from 0, but I died there in practice. It sucks, but it's like entirely your fault, so it's not a problem. Yeah. After that, there's what I call the toggle orb ship. This is my least favorite part of the level. It does definitely get consistent. There is like a click pattern and stuff, but especially like when I was first learning the level, this part was ass. Again, it's not as bad as it seems first practicing, but like, yeah. Mostly because like clicking the orbs as a ship, especially when you have to click one and then go down to hit another orb, but the act of clicking an orb will make the ship go up, so you have to hit really lightly and it's like awkward. I don't know, it's not amazing. And also the parts in between the toggle orb parts, this is what I was foreshadowing in the very first ship part. Crazy how this level's long enough that you can fucking foreshadow. But yeah, where like the way to do ship sync is, again, mostly using orbs if you want to go the ship sync route, not like portals, because portal spam is annoying. Next part I have listed is the robot staircase. This part, like, in concept it's good. Gameplay is also definitely one of the weaker parts, where sometimes when the platforms start moving down, the robot like gets stuck and you can't jump, and I've died there from 0. It is so bullshit. Actually, I don't think I died there from 0, but I died there from like 30 or something. Yeah. So the way to counteract that is to just know which jumps you'll typically get stuck at. There's only like one, really. And do like a much fatter jump there than the other ones. So yeah. Everything in between the robot staircase and the duel at like 10% later is like reoccurring gameplay, like that ship section. There's the wave section, and yeah. It's really cool how the level will be able to do that and have it work so well. but I already talked about those parts, so there's really nothing else to say that I haven't already said. Next is the duel. This does the same thing as the duel at like 40%, where it's a really easy click pattern. Basically just like 5 clicks, hit this yellow toggle orb, orange toggle orb. I know my colors. 5 clicks again, hit this orange toggle orb. Some slight variations of that, but it is really consistent. I've only died there a few times, once from 0. It was, I will say, I have it on recording, it is 100% not my fault. I was just doing the click pattern perfectly and it just killed me, because why the fuck not? Yeah, my only real issue with this part is it's really hard to see what's happening. So if you die for God knows what reason, good luck trying to correct it and figure out what you're doing wrong. Other than that, when it does work, which is 95% of the time, it is really satisfying to pull off. And really, it looks like a huge difficulty spike, but I don't even think I would consider that the hardest part of the level. Really, I'm not entirely sure what the hardest part of the level. My guess is going to be, I think it's like 80%, like that would be my best guess, but it's, you know, a level's balanced when it's hard to pinpoint a hardest part. That's basically the duel. There is one part I want to mention at the very end of after the duel. You have a few like clicks separating the duel and the green orb ball that I talked about earlier. It, like, first looking at the part, it seems like a pain in the ass to read. A lot of the gameplay is above the screen, so it's hard to read. But like the duel, there's just a really easy click pattern where you click 6 times, a small break, and then click 6 times again. And it's 100% consistent after that, and it's really satisfying to pull off. Which, yeah, if you're gonna have off-screen gameplay, have it work like that. Which I wish more people did, but yeah. After that, the green orb ball. I already talked about this before. My only nitpick is that first click being bullshit and launching you way too far half the time, because fuck knows why not. But every other click is easy, obviously. The part is as easy as it looks. So yeah, that's it. Discord notification, that's funny. Then there's the second drop. This drop, like I said, it is probably the hardest part of the level. And it's at 80%, so woo, scary. But it's really not that much harder by that much. Yeah, so I never died there from 0. Don't be surprised if you do. There's one click especially that I'll talk about that's pretty bad. But yeah, you just learn the part, and after that, you've got it. There is one click that's kind of an issue. There's a blue orb in between, like there's a blue orb with a block above and below it. You have to click that orb and then continue holding to jump. The issue is it's a 4x speed mini cube, where if you hit the orb too early, you'll jump and then hit the block on top. If you hit, there's a tiny window where you can hit the orb correctly, and then if you hit it too late, you just fall off. You miss the block that you need to jump off of entirely, and it is pretty bullshit. I don't think it's intentional, because that click is way harder than the rest of the clicks in pretty much the entire level. So yeah, I wish that was playtested a bit more. You could have just put an invisible platform next to it, and it would be like, so you don't fall off and miss the platform you need to jump off. It would be like the easiest fix ever. But yeah, other than that, the second drop is like completely fine. Then there's a straight fly with like a mini wave smushed inside of it. It works pretty well. My only issue is holding into the mini wave is pretty annoying. You have to use the song to like get the timing right. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. There is, from my practice, like an 80% success rate, but still, getting that 20% from 0 would be like absolutely soul crushing. So yeah, that part's really short, so nothing else to really say about it. And then the entire rest of the level is pretty much just recycling parts from the first half of the level, but glitchy this time. Which, I'm saying that, like, semi-sarcastically, but again, the repetition and reoccurring motifs work really well in this level, and there really isn't many levels like it that do the same thing to this caliber. A few closing remarks on the level that I should probably mention. Obviously, you saw the level. It's basically a layout, and even then, it's good enough that it totally warrants the epic rating. Probably even, like, legendary if it came out on 2.2. That is a bit of a stretch and would probably get into some controversy, but I thought it was good enough. I think it's good enough for legendary. That's my really subjective opinion. And the thing is, even though it got epic, there was no controversy around it. Like, this seems like the type of thing where a layout gets rated epic. This would, without further context, this would destroy GD Twitter. Like, people would, like, lose their shit over this. But this level is just, like, you look at it, and it's like, yep, that's... the epic rating is completely justified, that this is a good level. Which is something that I should point out, like, that's really impressive. And another thing that I will point out is comparing this level to Akira by 2003 Devon. Which, because they have a lot of similar stuff, where Akira has, it is an entirely endurance base. It's basically a layout with a little more to it that makes it interesting. And I don't want to... my experience with Akira when I played it was, it's weird, where it's one of those levels where, like, I can recognize it is a good level. It breaks the status quo quite a bit. It stands out from everything else. The gameplay in isolation is pretty fun, is pretty fair. But me playing it, like, it was such a terrible experience. Like, the song is super repetitive, and the parts, like, do not change at all. You are looking at the same level, or, I mean, obviously you're looking at the same level. You're looking at the same thing for 5 minutes, and just hoping you can not look at it ever again. Which, yeah. Akira is obviously a lot older, but I'm just pointing that out to say, like, yeah, Cicada just does not have that problem whatsoever. Honestly, ironically, Cicada is, like, 2 minutes longer, but it feels way shorter than Akira, so, yeah. Again, no shade to that if you're more of a fan of that repetitive gameplay and do not care about, or if you just have, like, a normal attention span, you'll probably love the level. I know a lot. It has a really high enjoyment rating from what I know. So, yeah, no shade to that level at all. But yeah, just, the two levels have a lot in common, but in my opinion, Cicada does the theme it's going for a lot better. So yeah, I really don't have anything else to say. I think I've been talking for like an extra 30 minutes, which is insane. Yeah, again, I feel the talking is probably annoying to some people, but like I feel like it's a lot more valuable and makes the video a lot more worth watching than just a 10 trillionth showcase, especially on something like a Bloodbath completion when there's already hundreds of videos on YouTube just playing the level and then stopping after that. So yeah, hopefully you got something from that. Highly recommend it if you want to play it, even if you're like not good at endurance-based levels. This is a really good one to try out. Yeah, I'll stop there. Goodbye.